What we're working on a deck lid that goes to a 1976 Mercedes-Benz. Now, here's the car right here in question, or should I say in restoration, that we're doing to this car. And what the situation is if you look real close, you can see that there's a gap between the inner skeleton structure and the outer deck lid itself. Now that's a no-no, because if you look right here in the center, you can see real close that there's a pad right there. There's a rubber pad, and it's supposed to go all the way on the other side, but this one here is cut off right there. That's the factory rubber pad that keeps the deck lid, when you push on it, it keeps the deck lid from popping and tin canning and all this other stuff. Because what the deal is the outside of this deck lid is called a skin. And if you look right here, the way that this is put on, you can see where it's rolled over, and it's rolled over all the way around the deck lid itself. And another name for this would be your trunk lid. Now, this was actually put here by Mercedes, and this is some caulking that they put here to keep the water from running into, because what we're looking at, this is the back side, so the window would roll down, water would come in, and then they sealed it up right here. There must be a hole or something under there, because if you look right here, they got it on this side too. So we're going to leave those there, because this car is going to be restored back to OEM factory original color and everything. And what we got to do, and I'm going to go ahead and push on this. You can kind of see what we're talking about if you look close. See how that's moving right there? We don't want that. And what we got to do is put that foam back in there. The problem we have is we can't get the factory foam pad that was installed from the factory. So we're going to have to manipulate it and make our own. So what we're going to do for the 97th time, did I already say that? What we're going to do? Yes, I did. We are going to go ahead and use a product that is specifically made for this type of application.
Welcome to D.I.Y. Automotive School with my friend Pete and Minnie, the body shop girl. It's everything you need to know about cars and more.
Now if we come over here, what we got a 3M product that's in a bag. And you can see that's a dual cartridge caulking tube. That means that it takes a special caulking gun to use with this application, and this just happens to be that gun. If you don't have this gun is almost $100. So I'm just letting you know that there might be other products out there that does the same thing. This is a two-part. That means it dries very quickly. It's like an epoxy glue. But it's also, what this is, an expandable foam. It's a flexible foam that's specifically designed for this application. If you look inside your hood, if you look inside your deck lid or possibly doors, okay, this is used a lot on replacement of door skins when you got that crash bar inside the door, and then if you take your door panel off, you'll see where they put some big round caulking blotches on it, and if you feel it, it's this stuff right here. Let's open that up and get a better look at that. So what we got here, we got flexible foam 3M part number 08463. That's the item that you're going to want if you replace a door skin or you have to do like what I'm doing, you're restoring an old car, and you lose that what can we say, that is that cushion between the two panels, because it's really, really important, especially on a deck lid. On a trunk lid, it's very important that you have that flex foam in between the skeleton structure and the skin itself, because what will happen, it'll eventually dent. It'll dent and you will not be happy. There's a lot of cars that when you replace a roof skin from a hail damage, this would be used right here. This is used on more newer cars than older cars due to the fact that the metal in a newer designed, newer model car is a lot thinner than the car that we're working on. But we still want to ensure ourselves that we don't have any problems down the road, and this is the only answer we got that's going to fix it. Now, when you get your flexible foam, it's going to come with 2 tips. I think that's a cheesecake situation. I think they ought to be supplying at least 4 to 6 tips for the price you pay. And I don't know if I mentioned, that's $45 for that little tube. That's $45. So my situation is you can buy a bag of these. I don't know how many comes in a bag, but I think that these mixable caulking tubes should have already been in there, and they should have supplied you with about 4 to 6 of them instead of 2. I think that's a cheap-ass situation. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and unscrew the cap on your caulking tube, and you want to make sure that you don't lose the red cap, because we're not using all this foam, so we're going to have to reuse this. This is our cap that cap that's going to keep everything in line and in sync when we need to store it. And then we're going to go ahead and stick our tip on there, and then we'll go ahead and slide the lock ring back on our caulking gun, and bam, there you go. Now, the gun itself, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you look right here below the lock ring, you're going to see there is a collar. So that collar will slide inside there just like that and will stay. Now, to do the job that we're going to do, we're going to need a paint stick, we're going to need some 2-inch tape, and of course we're going to need a rubber glove. And I'm going to go ahead and put that rubber glove on now. Get it out of the way. And I'd like to say again that this is normally used for new style cars when you have your crash bar in your door, when you replace your door skin, roof skins, quarter panel skins, anything that has an inside skeleton structure. This is the stuff that you would use for that flexible cushion to help keep that panel from doing this. Now, we had this media blasted, and the owner requested, I usually don't do the inside because I'm afraid that it'll warp, but he requested that all this get media blasted. So I went ahead and had them do that, and when they did that, of course it took the factory pad out of these 2 frame rails here, and we're going to try to manipulate ourselves back into the situation. And since this is going to be kind of a semi-concourse restoration, we want it to look just like what the pad looks like here. So I'm going to go ahead and squeeze my trigger, and as I squeeze the trigger, I'm going to watch my tube, and you can see that it's changing colors as we squeeze it. I'm also going to make sure that I got my thumb on my release trigger in case it starts coming out by itself. We don't want that. Now, before we actually use it on the car, we want to go ahead and squirt some of it out. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to make sure that our mixture is mixed properly. We want it to come out as one color. So we're going to keep squeezing it until we can see one color. So you can see how the foam has risen. We are now ready to go ahead and use this on our vehicle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, and then I will squeeze it, and I'm going to try to, like I said, I'm going to try to manipulate it and get it just like it was from the factory. And believe it or not, we're screwed. That stuff has hardened inside that caulking son of a bitch. It's already hardened. It's already hardened inside the tube. That is already hardened inside that tube. Wow, that's amazing. I'm thinking that this might be a defect, maybe, possibly. Because I've used this before and it's never ever hardened up that fast. So we're going to have to give a tip on this as fast as we can, and we're going to have to go with it because something is not right at all. So we're going to just go ahead and go with it. We're going to get all this out of the way. I think that this is some old stuff here. We're going to try to go ahead and get this done. Before that hardens up in that tube. And we're screwed. And we can always clean the excess off. But you really got to be careful with this because you can see how it's starting to rise. And I was actually going to do it a different way because I have used this stuff before. And it's never been this quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to let it dry. Look at that come out of there. You can see it. Another thing that you got to be careful with on this is that, let me get some right in here if I can, because this is already drying. Okay, there we go. All right, we're going to leave that right there. Another thing that you got to really be careful with is not putting too much in there. If you put too much in there, what will happen, and you want to have this thing sitting flat, okay? And that goes the same with the door skin. If you put too much of this stuff inside between the two pieces of metal, what will happen, wherever it's real flexible, it will literally push out. It'll push out the panel that you're working on. So always remember, this is stronger than this piece. So it's been approximately 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and we see that our foam is already hard. And you can see it right there. You can see that. So it's a 2-part epoxy type flexible foam that actually rises as you're using it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my gun away. I'm going to clean it off and put the cap back on there. And you can basically see why I think they kind of rip you off on these tips. Having 2 tips in there really doesn't, for $40, for $46 with tax, that really to me is kind of a letdown. I think that they should give you at least 6 tips to make sure that you use the whole tube, but you know, it's all about making the big dollar bill. That's basically what it's about. Let me go ahead and put this away, and then we're going to go ahead and finish this little job out. And you can see how nice and neat that goes back together using our reusable cap. See if we can get that thing out of there. And we'll slide it out just like this. There we go. And now, look at all the, it doesn't go far, folks. It really doesn't. Does not go far. You can see right there. And that's all we did. So, 46 bucks. So normally what you would do if this was a door or the inside of a quarter panel or possibly the roof, you would just leave it like that and go down the road. But since we're trying to manipulate the factory look on the back side of this trunk lid, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to get right next to this edge right here. And I'm going to cut that off. And then I'll take my putty knife and I'll cut it there. And then I'll come back, I will come back and clean this up really nice, probably tomorrow. I'm going to let it sit overnight. But since we're trying to manipulate the factory look here for $46, I'm going to go ahead and take my knife and cut those off. And make sure you use a sharp knife, because if you use a dull knife, you see what happens. My knife really wasn't that sharp. But we want to get that. And I'm going to get a closer look here. I'm going to show you what it looks like when we get it trimmed up. And I'd like to say once again, you don't want to put too much in there, because I'm not worried about this, but on a door skin, if you put too much on there, it's actually going to push that door skin out. So watch what you're doing, because this stuff is very tricky on how to really use it. Okay, I think that's going to work. Let's go over there and look what the factory one looks like, and then we'll blow this off and we'll look at that. We won't be able to see this finished because that's taking us into the paint and body end of it, and I really didn't want to get into it that far. I was basically showing you this product and how it works, but it looks like it actually worked good for us. Let's take a look and see what the original one looks like. So here's another Mercedes-Benz deck lid off of a different Mercedes, which is basically our parts car. And you can see right here, there's the factory pad we're talking about. And you can see that that's glued on there. And it's only right in the center. And it's missing that one over there anyway. It's not even there. But you can kind of see what that is. It kind of resembles a sanding block if you were going to do some color sanding, wet sanding. So, and it looks like it's as wide as this. That's why I only put it in the middle, because we're trying to manipulate what the factory would have done to this car, being a semi, or should I say concourse restoration that this thing's going to be. Now, mind you that I still have to clean this up and detail it all out, but you can kind of see that we basically manipulated our way and structured ourselves into saving this deck lid so it won't get ruined later. And here's again, once again, there's that pad. I went ahead and put a little bit on this side, and then here you go. So that's it. Flexible foam, it's a good job. It's a good product, and if you learn to use it the proper way, you can use it to your benefit. This is Pete, my friend Pete, your friend Pete, taking the flexible foam and wishing there were more tubes in the frickin' bag.
Thanks for watching D.I.Y. Automotive School. Classes don't stop till you know everything.